Hi everyone, it's Beverly Cole, but you can call me Bev. Do you ever think about working on a painting, but then you decide you really don't want to because you have to drag out all your paints and water, and then you have to clean up afterwards, and then you worry about the paint drying up, and then you have to wash all your brushes? Well, by using this technique, you won't have to do those things. I'm using my gel plate to make my medium. That's right. I'm going to use paper, painted paper, to create my painting of tulips. The picture that I have is from a friend. I found it online, and I told her when she saw the painting that it was from her photograph, and she was just awestruck, and she was honored, actually. So I probably should have asked her first, but when you're close friends with someone, you don't really worry about that. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I make my medium, which is painted paper, and then I'm going to show you how I use it to work on my painting in a relaxed way where I don't feel pressured to pull out all my paints and make a mess and then clean it all up before I can leave my painting until the next day or so. Here I'm using some golden heavy body acrylic paints along with some golden retarder. Now, you don't have to use the expensive paint to do this. It's just that, in my RV, I was limited because I don't have a ton of space to, bring everything that I own. I have a studio in my home in Florida, so I have everything. And if I don't have it, I can always, pick it up, but I don't worry about how much space I have. That's the big thing in the RV. It's the space. So I brought my favorite new golden paints, which are the new primaries, and they are magenta. I can never remember the name of the blue, yellow, and begins with a C. Anyway, I'll remember it later. So look how beautiful this picture is. The one thing about using these really highly pigmented, heavy body acrylics is that you get a lot of color, and that's what I want. I'm going to be working from the photograph that I made a little copy of it on paper so that I could have it right there with me. And then here on the video, I'm going to be putting it in the corner so you guys can paint along, so to speak, with me. Here I'm using some, I think I showed it earlier if you were watching. The white is Amsterdam, I believe. And the white will pick up all of the little bits and goodness around the edges, the crusty edges. It'll pick up the pink that was left, and it'll give me a beautiful piece that I can use in my painting. By doing this, you are creating your medium where you don't have to bring those paints out after this. I'm outside. Ooh, I love that. I'm outside at my RV. This is on the picnic table. I'm in Pennsylvania at this point, visiting my daughter, and just had a really nice sunny day one day at the campground so that I could do this. So here is that cyan. It's cyan, C-Y-A-N. That's the blue. Kind of the colors that if you open up your printer, you're going to see. Those are the colors that are in your printer ink. They're not the classic blue, yellow, and red. They're cyan, magenta, and bright yellow. So there's the beautiful picture of the tulips on the left. And I'm continuing to create. I look at the picture and I decide, let's see, what colors would I use? Now notice that you don't really see a lot of blue when you look at this at first, but there is blue. And sometimes even when the paint's dry, which is why I use a retarder. The retarder helps to keep the paint wet longer. Being outside, it's a little breezy and the paint is drying pretty quickly. So again, using the white to pick up the color to make a lighter piece of medium. I love using that word for this. Yeah, the paper is going to be a medium. I can use all of the pieces. Yeah, it's cyan. Yeah, that's when I remembered. Oh, yeah, cyan. The paper is just great. It's just so great. When you see how I can use this and a relaxed atmosphere inside my RV. Now, I have to say, using acrylic when you live in an RV for a length of time or even on a short trip, you aren't going to want to put it down your drain. At home, I never put it down the drain. That's a whole other video. It's called It Took 11 Years. If you want to watch it, it's the story of what happened when I put the paint down the drain. So in the RV, especially, you don't put things down your drains. The plumbing system in an RV, it doesn't accept a whole lot of things, and especially plastic paint. So I go outside when I'm painting so that I can just keep the mess out there, dump the water, and into the gravel where my RV is, and then just continue to work inside when I have my paper medium complete. This yellow is Sennelier, and again, the colors are just coming out so beautifully. I'm just in awe. So even though I am using these expensive paints, they're really making some gorgeous, gorgeous papers. And now you can use any kind of paint to make your papers, but I want this to be, also just, I want it to be a beautiful piece of artwork. So I'm actually lucky that I brought just these paints, because at home I probably would have pulled out, some more inexpensive brands. Now, I'm not going for any particular design or print, I'm not using stencils or anything, but I am just getting a lot of texture. So, now this is my setup inside my RV. If you notice, I took out the regular table and chairs and put in an IKEA table. It's a little longer. And my background on this is just pages from a Passport America catalog. It's what I had, and it gives me that texture underneath the painted papers, which, here's my palette. So my palette is papers, water to put my glue brush in. That's the only reason there's water. And matte medium. And a cup of coffee. Now notice that I put my picture right there, and I can see the colors basically, but I'm not so particularly bound to the colors in the photograph. I add, for example, if the color is more brilliant, more like the pretty cad orange tulip at the top, I really looked at the picture and broke it up into a variety of hues. So I have some magenta, there's some purple for the shadows, there's some orange and yellow, and it really makes for a very interesting and textured and colorful piece of artwork. I can work on this, I think this is in the afternoon. I had some music playing. I love to listen to George Winston radio on Pandora. I love that. And so I was listening to that and just taking my time. All I have here is a pile of paper and some glue, pretty much. Matte medium it's like a glue, and it seals in the painted paper. And I'm having a great time. just tearing. And when I tear, sometimes I'll get that white edge, sometimes I won't. It depends on which way you tear the paper. And away from you or towards you, you're going to get that white edge. And I like it because it gives me like it just adds interest to the colors to have that white in between. And the other wonderful, absolutely fantastic thing about working with paper instead of straight acrylic paint is I don't have to wait for things to dry, well, except for the matte medium, but I don't have to wait for colors to dry. I don't have to worry about making muddy colors because they're not going to mix. So when I want to use colors to give shape, to give the lights and darks, they're separate pieces of my paper medium. And if I decide I don't like something, I can either take it off, just peel it off, or when it dries, or even when it's not dry, I can go over it with another color. I used also some dark papers. It's good to have some dark papers for shadows, to break up the brights. And I can't say enough about how much fun this is. Work on it for a while, plunk your brush in the cup of water. I put the cup of water in my dish drainer overnight. And this picture here is showing how I even use magazine words from a magazine for interest in my watercolor paper, not watercolor, my painted paper picture. That was another one that I did that way. And it's fun and it's whimsical. At the same time, it can be dramatic. So I just continue until I don't feel like working on it anymore. I had someone come over to visit in the RV and I said, "What are you working on?" And I said, "Oh, I'm working on a painted paper collage." And he just shrugged his shoulders and walked away. He didn't get it. But I'll tell you what, when you see this finished, it's amazing. It's amazing. Can I tell you how amazing it is? It's just so much fun. It's relaxing. And I just continue to sit there, got music playing, or the TV's on and George is watching it, or someone could be having a conversation behind me, and I'm so focused that I don't even hear them. And when I'm tired of working on it, I put my papers in a stack, close up my matte medium, and put my brush in my water. When I'm ready to clean my brush, I just go outside, dump out the water, and come back in and make more water with some soap and just, slosh it around in the water. All the water goes outside into the gravel. If you don't feel good about putting it into the gravel, then you can put it into a bucket of sand and all the paint will just, go to the bottom and the water will be absorbed in the sand. And I've never done that, but I've heard about it. But I don't see any reason that I can't put it in the gravel. There's nothing that's going to be going on top of that gravel except an RV. So it's fine as far as I'm concerned. So I just keep working. The next time I want to work on this, I just take out my matte medium and a brush. And these, by the way, are brushes from Harbor Freight. They're not expensive. They're just really cheap brushes. I think you can get 35 in a box for $15, something like that. And I don't worry about them. So if I forgot to put it in there in the water and it got hard, well, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, I'm having fun. That thing you might see on the left there, the black, that's the mount for my phone. This is actually, I'm just using my iPhone to make this video. Can you just feel the relaxation though? Can you just feel it? It's almost like sitting down and saying, I want to work on a puzzle for a while. But the neat thing is that I created this puzzle. I'm creating it. It's not just pieces of, search for the shape or search for the little bit of color or texture or design on a piece of puzzle piece. This is, okay, I need that color. Where is it? I can tear it off of here. For instance, right here, I'm putting in background color, which is also helped create the shape of the tulip. Now, when I'm finished, all that craziness behind the tulips will be gone because it'll be covered with paper medium. And it's going to be not just, how do I make my background interesting? You don't even have to think about it because the papers have interesting specks of the colors that were picked up from the gel plate. So this is actually a really good idea for someone that wants to begin painting, but is afraid of making muddy colors, is afraid of not getting the flowers in the right place on the canvas. When I started this, all I did was look at the picture. I started with the big tulip up in the corner, and I kind of just made sure I had enough space for all of the rest of the photograph of the flowers. Now, you wouldn't even have to do the whole photograph. You could crop it. You could just do part of it. It's just relaxing. And you walk away from it like a puzzle, have dinner or whatever, and then get back to it whenever you feel like it, just like a puzzle. The thing up on the right is my craft light. In the RV, I need to have extra light directly on my artwork because it can be a little, if it's cloudy out, I have big, beautiful windows, but I'm not going to get a lot of light. And the lights inside the RV are not going to give me that really true light that will help with the painting. It is still important to have good lighting so that you get the colors right. Now, I wouldn't even have to do this all in the colors. I could have printed this picture out in black and white, and then I could have done a black and white version. I could have put this in, and a program like I use called, oh my goodness, here we go again. It's a free, it's like Word, but it's free. Open Office, right. It's free. It's a free download. Oh, please pardon my crazy hair. It's a free download. And you could go in there with your photograph and you could play with the color and change it. I could have made these flowers yellow. I could have made them purple. Of course, the leaves would be changing as well. But that could be fun too. It definitely could be fun. I also did another painting where I used more textures. And that's a different video. I think it might be the one just before this one. And you can see where I used some jelly plate prints that had stripes in them. And it really did add to the leaves on the flowers. So notice the movement in this painting. The flowers are not straight up and down. Now they're in a pot, with the foil lining. I think this was a Mother's Day gift. So, the tulips are facing to the right, and I just thought that movement was really great. So I kind of just made a tiny adjustment to make it a little bit more angled and give it a little bit more movement with the colors. I want to make sure there's some green in different places. I want to make sure there's purple so that your eye moves around that color, the different colors. I make sure I have a little bit of them down in another area so that your eyes don't just get stuck in one place. And that gives movement. And you do that through the color. And then with this kind of an approach, you could just add little tiny strips of those colors down at the edges of the leaves. Or, there's a foil liner, and the foil liner reflects color. So you can easily add little bits of the red or the orange or purple or even green to the foil. The foil in this photo, I think I pretty much made it picked up on the blues in it. So this painting is coming to be, and I still, even after this video, I don't really finish it here. I don't finish the edges. So I'll have to do that and make another video to show you using some of those interesting edge techniques. You could just make the painting go over the edges. You could make the papers go over the edges. I decided not to. My edges are just not being worked on right now. I don't have to, like with acrylic painting, if you were going to leave them white, you'd have to tape all the edges off. Not in this case, because it's just paper. It can be painted over, or it can be sanded off, and you could add more paper around the edges, different techniques. And I do have a video on different edges, different things you can put on the edges of your projects. So here, see in the photo, you can see that the edges get darker down at the bottom, and the top is lighter. There's also some light at the bottom, which keeps your eye moving. See that white space, and then at the bottom there's some reflection of the foil, I believe, that's lighter. So yeah, so there's a lot of movement. And I also love the vignette of the darker corners at the top. I love to use that vignette technique. In my collages, I use the vignette quite a bit. I just love the drama of it. And if you don't know what a vignette is, it's just where the edges are darker. You can do that with a photograph. But I just like, in my collages, I just love to finish the edges that way. Many times it's very dramatic. So I continue to work and adding darker pieces here. You could, if you were new to painting with acrylic, you might look at this and go, okay, the leaves are green, the flowers are red and pink. Well, guess what? Your painting would be extremely boring if you didn't add different hues and different lights and darks. And this just makes it so easy. Just makes it so easy. The greens are even interesting. They're not just boring green, triangles or leaf shapes. We're making them very interesting and very mosaic-like. It's the paper. Now you can see here, I'm still continuing, because that's another thing, You don't have to wait for an area to dry before you add another bit of color, another splash of color. Matte medium, piece of paper. And if later you don't like that and it's dry, you can just go over it with some background or another color, change the shape. And as you make layers, you're adding texture, texture, texture. Much more texture than I think you would get with straight acrylic. You'd have to try hard to create the texture. Here, it's not hard. So if you want to try this, you could try it with a very simple picture. Go on Pinterest or one of your own pictures. Maybe a simple flower. Something that's not got a lot going on. I've been painting and doing collages for pretty much my whole life. So this technique to me just really changed it up for me. I prefer using tools that you would color with pencils or markers or pastels, soft pastels. A brush is not my favorite tool for painting, except for doing it this way. And that's just using it to add the glue, the matte medium. Now you could use Elmer's glue. If you have that, use what you have. The difference would be that the Elmer's will stay white longer and make it more difficult to see your colors. So it's definitely slow down the process. And, you can use Mod Podge. I am not a fan of Mod Podge. I don't like the smell. I think it's a little sticky. Matte medium is great. It's just, makes it matte. And then you could, if you like it shiny, you can put a coat of gel medium over this. Or you could use gel medium if that's what you have. And your picture will be glossy through the entire process. So here I'm starting to add the blues, and that is for the foil wrapper around the pot. But it doesn't even have to be a foil wrapper. It's not like that's what my aim is, to see the foil wrapper design. I'd make sure that people, when they look at this, know that it's a foil wrapper. I don't care. I'm just having fun with the color and the shapes and using the paper to give the shapes and the color. So you put, just like when you use, do any kind of a collage, use the matte medium under the paper, use the matte medium on top of the paper, just like you would use Mod Podge if that's all you've ever used. Now, if you don't have any of these glues, although I would imagine in your house you probably have some Elmer's glue, you could use a glue stick to put the papers down. I think you'd use a lot of glue stick. And then you could just, seal it with the Elmer's glue and leave it overnight. And that white Elmer's glue will just dry to a very pretty layer. But Elmer's glue is reactive with water, so if you wet it again, it's going to get cloudy again. And I've used it that way, and it dries again. It's no big deal. But you could spray a gloss spray over it when it's dry. I'm trying to think. There was something else I did. Yeah, you can use layers and layers of Elmer's glue, and it will give you this thick, really interesting finish, very smooth. So all your texture will be there like it is here, but the feel would be smooth. Now, I love the texture. I love to rub my hands over the texture. And this is the painting. I'm showing you, look at the background. All those light colored papers in the background. Close up, it looks totally different than far away. I hope you loved this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and I would love for you to subscribe to my channel and follow me as I create. See you next time.